Okay, here's the beginning of my presentation. So, here's the problem statement. My investor, still my dad. First project, my investor was my dad. Still my dad for this one. He's come to me and he suddenly has a lot of money. And he's decided he wants to invest in several different properties across California. And so, to help him through this analysis, I want to find the top 4 cities in terms of Airbnb popularity, then give him property type suggestions as well as any other advice into investing in Airbnbs as I do my analysis. So first, let's go over the data that's in the California Airbnb data set. You have 8 cities. I wish there were more, but there's only 8, unfortunately. So, first city, San Mateo, then you have Santa Clara, Santa Cruz, San Francisco, Los Angeles, Oakland, San Diego, and finally Pacific Grove. We are not going to be using Pacific Grove for this analysis, just because it doesn't have much data relative to the other cities. So we're going to exclude it from this analysis. So, after we do some initial digging, we find the top 4 cities out of the original 8 that have the highest booked nights on average, looking 365 days in advance. And that is San Francisco, Oakland, San Diego, and Santa Cruz. You see that those 4 on the left. And those have 180 days out of 365, 173 out of 365, 170 out of 365, and 169 out of 365 days on average booked for any given Airbnb. And you can see on the right, there's just a map of those 4 cities. Oakland is not labeled just because it couldn't fit in the space next to San Francisco, but those are the 4 and where they are. Now that we have our 4 cities, let's look at property types in California and which ones are most popular relative to others. So if we look at this graph, I have some of the most common property types in California. Out of all of those, there's 2 kind of clear stars that are above the rest. You have the entire guest house and the entire bungalow. Those are the most popular property types. If you look 90 days into the future, those have the most booked nights relative to any other property type when you look at the aggregate state of California. So we have that, but we probably need to get a little bit more specific when we're looking at investing in different cities, because what works for all of California might not work as well in individual cities as other property types. So if we start looking at the top 4 cities that we found earlier, we find that the most popular type in San Francisco is the entire bungalow and the private room in bungalow. Those are about tied. Then in Oakland, the most popular property type is the entire townhouse. In San Diego, it's a private room in a bungalow, very similar to San Francisco, if you remember. Then in Santa Cruz, the most popular property type, looking 90 days into the future, is a private room in a guest suite. Now, this is the same information just on a map. You just have San Francisco, Oakland, Santa Cruz, and San Diego with their respective most popular property types. Okay, so we have those property types. I want to know, is there any other information that we can tell my father before he starts investing? And I looked at the data set and I saw a couple of variables that were interesting. One was bed number for a given listing on Airbnb, and one was the bathroom number. So you have the number of total beds in a listing and the number of total bathrooms. And I decided maybe it'd be best to graph those numbers and see if any of them influence the popularity of a given listing. And it turns out that the relationship is actually a negative correlation between the two. On the left, you see that The bed number, as the beds go up, as it goes to the right, the popularity is actually skewing up and down kind of erratically. When you get to 12, 13, 14, 15, popularity starts going down like crazy. And same thing with bathroom number. 1.5 bathrooms and one bathroom are the two highest in popularity compared to 4.5, 5.5, which are at the very bottom in terms of popularity looking 90 days into the future. So as for investment knowledge, I guess the main takeaway here is not to worry too much about finding maximum amounts of bathrooms or beds, because it seems that there may even be a negative correlation between the number of bathrooms / beds and the popularity of that place. So finally, after coming up with all of that, coming up with the most popular cities and most popular property listings and some additional insights, I want to give an overall kind of personal word of advice to my dad by telling him how many properties he should be investing in total. And so I looked at the number of host listings compared to the popularity of their listings. And I found something very interesting, which is that there's a clear negative correlation between owning more Airbnb properties and the popularity of those properties. So if you see on the graph, owning one property makes it on average be more popular than someone who owns 10 properties. And so overall, we want to give the advice that along with the cities and property types that we discussed originally, he should probably buy fewer properties rather than more, just so that he can maximize the popularity of each one individually. That is all.